We also actually took Blue Peter to Blackpool Magic Convention 2 years ago, and we did a whole special on that, which was really a silly idea to bring a whole camera crew in. I mean, as if you don't see enough mad stuff, seeing all these lights and booms being walked around the aisles was great fun. But so many magicians that have been on the show since I've joined, because I can't help but keep inviting people to get to go. I just like having magicians in. Since I've been on the show, the magician that's been on it for me was just the most special, and they've all been wonderful, friends with all of them. But Mario, the Maker Magician, was on, and it was the most amazing thing. Firstly, his Edinburgh show is what made me want to pitch him. It's the probably the only magician I've actively went out of my way and been like, you have to book this guy to come in and do it live on TV. But for the first time ever, we were live. Mario opened the show and he wanted it to be the first time it was seen by the kids, because usually we would say do rehearsal, whatever. He didn't want to do that in front of the kids. He said, I want it to be a surprise. He's a total pro. Came out, gave it the absolute beans, gave one of the best magic performances I've ever seen. And in my earpiece, I heard, okay, nobody panic, but the last 10 minutes have gone out without any sound. So his entire segment went out with just him going around, going crazy, robots, monkeys doing magic, and there was no sound on it at all. And I thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So I knew that what was going to happen is we're certainly not going to stop him in the middle of it. But it's live, remember? So they fixed it probably for the first 30 or last 30 seconds of his act. We then came on, I did an interview with him, whatever it happens to be. He taught some other tricks, did an amazing job. And then right after the show ended at 5:30, we had to go back and he had to do the whole thing again for the same group of kids. And Mario was that good that he did the exact same routine twice and got an even bigger reaction the second time because he just gave it even more energy. So that's my favorite magic memory from the show so far.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Desert Island Tricks. You'll notice, if you are on YouTube watching this, that you can see this one. It's another one of our video ones. We seem to be doing more of these at the moment, but that's because, again, we have a very special guest. Now, I think this is our first Irish magician, but don't hold me to that, just in case I've got it wrong. But I do believe that today's guest is our first Irish magician. Now, if you haven't heard of Joel M, that means that you are not on social media. That is the first fact that I can tell you, because he is absolutely everywhere. And I have enjoyed watching his videos for the past God knows how many number of years, certainly since the pandemic, when he started doing some really clever concept videos with his brother, in which he kind of tries to impress his brother, so to speak. It's such a great set of videos, so if you haven't heard of him, go and seek those out first. But let me tell you a bit about him. So he is a Northern Irish magician and presenter. The presenter being a really interesting thing, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Now, he's been doing magic since the age of 5, performing publicly since 11. And I mentioned that the presenter because he is the 41st presenter of BBC's Blue Peter. Now, our American friends, you may not know what Blue Peter is, but Blue Peter is a TV show that I watched when I was really little, and it had a huge cultural impact on the world. They used to do like huge charity drives where when we were at school, we would have to collect cans, and we would send the cans in, and they would recycle the cans, and then they had like a meter each week, and they would show you how high up the meter has gone. They've had a flurry of celebrity animals and dogs. It really is such a British institution. So to be able to be a part of that, it must just be incredible. He is also Northern Ireland's Celebrity of the Year 2022. He has amassed 20 plus million followers across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. And I've been told that is at the lower end now. That stat has gone up probably quite dramatically. He is the youngest honorary member of the Irish Magic Circle. I'm going to stop saying Irish because for some reason I cannot say it. So I'm going to stop that now. I'm just going to introduce him. I'm really thrilled to have him here. I think it's going to be a really interesting list. Of course, today's guest is the wonderful Joel M. Hello, Joel.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well now that you're here. I cannot say Irish. That will probably be edited to sound like I can say it a bit better.
Dude, it's a struggle, and I sometimes forget the difference between the North and the South. And when I'm speaking to Americans, they struggle sometimes to understand that it's two separate countries. So Irish just works; it covers them all, you know. But most of my best friends are from Southern Ireland, so that's a good place. But Northern Ireland is where I'm from. That's where I call home. Little town called Bangor.
I knew a little bit about this, so I did say to Joel that I heard him on another podcast, and we don't normally plug other podcasts on this one, but we will, which was the Magicians Network, which is run by one of our previous guests, Richard Young. It's a phenomenal podcast, and your episode was so interesting. I think your journey through magic is just fascinating. The fact that you are where you are now. How old are you now, Joel?
I just turned 28 a couple of weeks ago. I woke up with a couple of grey hairs. It's happening. It's starting to happen. It's not good. That was such a joy to do that podcast as well. Proper legend, Richard, as well. Lovely bloke.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy. And, you know, you may have those grey hairs, but at least you have a makeup trailer, which, you know, they can sort all of that out. That's all good. So, yeah, you are currently the 41st Blue Peter presenter. And I'm guessing that, you know, your journey through magic ultimately has led you to this point. And I know that you spoke a little bit on the other podcast about that, so I'm not going to say anything here. But it wasn't necessarily your magic that got you onto Blue Peter, but certainly I'm guessing it had some influence on the way that you are on camera and the way that you talk so freely and naturally.
Yeah, I think it gave me a slight edge, and I certainly wouldn't have got the job if it wasn't for magic in one respect. That being that I was on the show as a guest, as a magician when I was a lot younger. So that's how they knew who I was, and if it probably wasn't for that, I doubt I would have got a call. I know that they went through a backlog of guests they'd had on before and looked and thought, well, would anyone that's already been on the show be good? And so that gave me a foot in the door. So I have magic to thank for that. Absolutely. I do think it was a bit of an edge in terms of the live shows. We don't do as much live now. We'll do it a couple times a year for big shows. I think like Christmas and Children in Need, that sort of thing. But like most TV now, it's pre-recorded, and it's great in that it's a little bit less pressure, but there was something about doing the live shows that really reminded me of doing stage magic. And I think having done that for years just helped me feel a little bit more calm, because believe it or not, I still think it is scarier to do a magic show in front of live people than it is just looking down a camera. A lot of people seem to have it the other way around. It's never bothered me as much, but it was good practice for sure. And especially being a magician when stuff just goes wrong all the time and being able to think on your feet and dealing with the general public, that certainly helped.
Your social media as well. Like I knew you first from your social media, and I think you were doing things that other people weren't doing at the time, which was interesting. And again, you spoke about this on the other podcast, but it really rung true. It's the fact that you're doing such a diverse range of tricks as well, like misled. You're doing like common new ones. You're doing things designed just for social media, not for social media. It's such a diverse mix of tricks that you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that was my favorite part of when I was posting on social media consistently, because there's bits of it that are, I suppose, tiring, like the editing and then just making sure posting schedules. But the best part was every morning waking up and going, right, I got to find new stuff. So most of my time during lockdown was spent absolutely devouring the magic websites and going through everything I could find. But what I noticed was a lot of the time, the tricks that performed the best were some of the old ones that people have forgotten, old classics. And I had a great time doing that. And to your point about the concepts, I think that was a big thing. And I clocked that early on-ish. I realized that there were these incredible magicians who are so much more gifted than me, but they weren't necessarily packaging the magic in a way that was appealing to a broad audience, or maybe it would take too long to get to the point, which is absolutely fine if you're performing live. But I think at some stage I realized that with these new algorithms, you're not just competing with other magicians anymore, you're competing with The Rock and Cristiano Ronaldo for the same attention. So you really got to do something that's going to get their attention. Luckily for me, my younger brother, Ethan, was a perfect vehicle because he's so expressive and so funny. And magicians who are watching this will be under no illusions that, of course, he's like hamming up to a certain extent his reaction. Though I don't usually tell him the methods, and I try to make it that if somebody was with me in person, I could do that trick for them. He certainly, I think, acted as the spectator watching. So the person watching was going, oh, that's how I feel too. And that concept really, really worked. By the way, can I just dip in and say as well, thanks for the very nice intro. I do appreciate you reading out all that stuff. It's very nice of you for doing that.
Well, I just think it's incredible that someone so young has managed to achieve so much. You know, in your 28 years, you've achieved more than, you know, someone who's been in this profession 3 times that has potentially, you know, either wanted to achieve or has achieved. So the fact that you're there now, and I know that what came across on the other podcast is sort of how humble you are still with it all. And someone in your position could have a completely different head on them. And I think you're still very grounded, and I think you're very realistic. And one thing that you said on the other thing is how you sort of used your social media almost to help sell tickets to shows, and that's your real dream. Yeah. And that's sort of where you're at now, because you're developing your show and you're taking it on a tour, and you're sort of living that part of your dream at this point.
Yeah. It's funny. I think, thanks for saying that, by the way. I think the big thing for me has always been doing live shows. It's what I started off doing. It's what I find interesting myself. Like, I love doing the videos and I get time with my brother, and I love doing Peter. That's all great, but there is nothing that beats doing a stand-up magic show for me. I love close-up too, but doing stand-up shows, it's what drew me to doing magic in the first place. And I was pushing for doing that when I was younger. I just love the whole process of starting with nothing, putting together tricks, formatting it. I just love it so much. And that was always in mind when I started social media. It never really was to grow a big following. It was always, well, if enough people watch the video, they might buy a ticket. And if they buy a ticket, then they'll like the show, and that'll be great. And then I can be happy. But it's it's been fun. Got a new show coming later in the month, so I'm very much in the process of doing that as well. And it has to change as well as time goes by, and have a slightly different audience now. So where once it was probably more your type of thing, very hardcore, intense, serious mentalism with the eyeliner, now I'm doing an egg bag, and it's finding a way to make that work for both the adults and the kids. But that in and of itself is a really fun challenge that I enjoy taking part of.
Well, I know that from experience of friends that I have that are in social media, so the likes of, you know, Harry, our very own Harry Alexam, James Samuel. Now, they collect so many tricks. They are quite literally surrounded by hundreds of tricks. So,
well, to tell you the truth, Jamie, sorry to cut you off. I should apologise publicly to James Samuel on here, because I was going through my office back in Northern Ireland and I found about 16 of his things that he's lent me that I forgot to give back. So sorry, James. I will post them back one day.
Does that help or hinder trying to narrow it down? Because you guys are completely surrounded. And even in terms of your show, when you have so many tricks that you just love and you're so enthused by, putting that into a show, and that's sort of, it's something that we've not spoken about before, but that's sort of what this list is, the Desert Island list. It's almost like creating a show. You start with this broad demographic of tricks and these ideas and all of the things, and I could do a book test and I could do the egg bag and I could all of these exciting things, but then we have to get it down into a 2-hour show. So with someone like you in this position where you've got all of these tricks, is it easier because you have so many to pick from, or is it harder because you've got so many to pick from?
I think it's harder, man, because it's a massive distraction in some ways. I have the perfect example. I was back, as I say, in Northern Ireland, and I've just cleared out a big studio space I had there because I've moved to Manchester, and the amount of stuff that I just forgotten I owned. I was trying to clear away and clear out the office, but every 5 seconds I was get distracted by a new gizmo or toy. And I was sat there on the floor of the office like, oh, and I could do this in the new show. This is great. And I'm never going to do it. I mean, but I think that's the fun thing about magic, isn't it? Is even if something isn't really usable, we all find the enjoyment of the secret and the flaps and the flips and the flops. I do think it makes it harder because it's difficult to focus on what might actually be entertaining for the audience rather than what is just clever. So I'll find a method and go, I've never actually used that. And the truth is, I probably don't have to use that. Sven Pat will do, you know. So it's important sometimes to focus, and I do struggle. So I actually brought a friend down to the office to sit with me and be bad cop and be like, get rid of that, give that to another person. You will never do that. So I think it makes it harder for me anyway. Maybe for somebody else, it would spark their creativity. But for me, I'm just too distractible. So that's not a good thing.
And in terms of your set, so giving nothing away, is there anything in your show that you're now touring that made it into your list?
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. But if I glance over my list, I will tell you, okay. Yes, one of them. Yes, for 2 of them. Yes, for two of them. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
Would you
exciting.
like me to tell you my first one?
Well, we'll keep it. We'll keep it as a
Oh, good.
secret
I wasn't
because
sure.
we do one thing on here. We call it the guest bingo. So this is Joel M bingo. Okay.
Oh boy.
So our listeners have to guess which one of these are in your show. So we know that two of them are in your show. So normally
Mm.
we guess what's on your list. This time we're going to do it differently. You're not going to tell us until you've told us all eight tricks, and our listeners have to guess which two of these are in your show, unless you said egg bag in your list, in which case we already know that one's in the show. So everyone at home, everyone that's listening, your job is to guess which two from this list are on Joel's list, okay, in his show. Now, before we go any further, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, the idea is we're about to maroon Joel on his very own Blue Peter Island. When he's there, he's allowed to take 8 tricks, banish one thing, take one book and one non-magic item that he uses for magic. Particulars, who's there, what's there, all of that good stuff, we do not mind. This is in Joel's own imagination. So, Joel, let's get our Joel M bingo head on and work out which ones that we think are in your show. What's in your first position?
I'm going to have to try so hard to not accidentally let slip as we go through this. If there's a massive cut in the video, you'll know what happened. Well, in no particular order, and I've thought long and hard about this, right? I don't necessarily think that this is the most crazy, glamorous, abstract list, but this is what I would take. So I'll go number one. Number one, it's just so classic. It would be a deck of playing cards. I'm not sure how much you want me to say, but maybe think of one that Phil Smith might make or your friend Mark might use. That sort of deck of cards I would take because I don't know what I would do at a close-up gig if I didn't have it. That's my bread and butter. Deck of cards could go for hours. And if I'm on a desert island, I need something to entertain myself with. I travel so much, and pretty much the entire time you see me traveling these days, even not on a desert island, I'm just fiddling with cards all the time. I should be better at them than I actually am for the amount I sit and fiddle with cards. But that would be my number one.
Okay, so I did warn you before the podcast started that we do have Devil's Advocate,
Of
and
course, has to be done.
all of our listeners know what was about to. As soon as you said that kind of deck, so two questions. Number one, let's talk about the kind of deck that you've just mentioned. Now, you just mentioned Phil Smith's name, and if I said DMC, hopefully people would understand what that means as well. Is that your preferred one, and if so, why?
I've used that one plenty. My preferred one might be one you would find from Steve Della, I believe. I've used those for a long time and ordered a ton of those, mainly because I'm 28 now and I don't wear glasses, so that makes it a little bit easier. Um, that would be the exact deck if I had to. I would use something that's very user friendly, and in all of my time using them, I have never been caught with like that particular method. And I think it scares a lot of people, but until you try it, you'll just never know. I've never been caught.
Yeah, Steve's decks are great. So that's anyone wants to check them out, it's the Night Flight deck. They are superb. Now, this is the Devil's Advocate part, Joel. So if you could only perform one routine or one trick with that deck of cards, what is the one routine you would perform?
I thought you might ask me that, so I came prepared. It's really difficult. I had an honorable mention for this, which would be out of this world. A variation that I was shown, and I don't know this for sure, but I think it might be something by Aussie Wind, but I'm not sure. If people know it, they'll know it, but it's a similar version to Out of This World. That's my honorable mention, but it would not be my top pick. My top pick would be a short little routine I use with Mnemonica. That's my bread and butter. Most of the time, whenever I do card magic, it's jazzed. I'm asking for people to name cards. They're appearing in any old way. So essentially, name a card, find a card. If you want me to go really specific, it would be name a card and it's in my back pocket. That's usually what I do to open. I've just been doing it for years. And I think for a layperson, that is as quick and as impossible as you can possibly get without some crazy flashy gimmicks. So that would be my pick. I reckon you could get a reputation just doing that trick over and over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really interesting, you mentioned that some people may be a little bit scared of using that kind of deck. But I think I've noticed throughout this podcast that people are using them in completely different ways. So we had one guest who used it to get out of trouble, and it was almost like a safety net. We've had some people that use them in order to locate something quick enough. I think that's what you are indicating that you do with it. And then, of course, you have the seeing the face without seeing the face way of doing it as well. So it seems to be that everyone has their own thing, and yours is a way to locate it quickly.
It's less so. I think it's less to locate it quickly because for those of you who know Mnemonica, for example, or something like that, it's very easy to do that anyway. For the most part, when I use that type of deck of cards, I don't really actually use the method. It's more so that for anyone, especially on stage, a moment that I really dislike is when you find a card or there's a card here in your hand and you have to look at it or peek it somehow before you do the bang and you reveal it. I like to just know. That's when I'll tend to use it, just to be absolutely sure. So for me, it's worth having that method in there, but it is great for getting out of trouble as well. That's 100%. And if you're doing any sort of stack stuff, then it's really helpful for different things, weighing cards, that sort of thing. It adds an extra little something, I think.
Well, that's a great choice in at number one. So let's, number one, we all have to work out, is that Joel's first choice in his show? Could it be used in there somewhere? We'll find out at the end. So, number two, Joel, what was in your second position?
Number two is a stage item. I suppose you could use it close out, but I'm not saying it's in the show. It might or might not be. Just throwing some red herrings, or not. It's an item that typically would be used on stage, but could be done close up. And that is David Regal's Clarity Box. Firstly, I'm a massive David Regal fan. Pretty much every single thing he puts out is just brilliant. And I remember having his box sets back in the day, which are worth their weight in gold. But this particular box, for those who don't know, I think I'm safe enough in saying it's a switch box, which allows you to switch things in and out. I've seen a lot of people use it as the emergency card plot. What I use it for is essentially a kicker ending. I have used it in a lot of shows where it's not really the big reveal. I have used it for confabulation sort of thing, but if I had to use it for one reason, it would be to bring an audience member up on stage, to get to know them a little bit. It might be something silly, like they name the lemon in a bill and lemon, and it just so happens to be in there. My favorite use for it so far was to use it following a bank night routine, which was at the very end after they've won their fiver, but I've kept the 200 quid or whatever, is to say, some people probably wonder what happens when that goes wrong, and it's okay. I do have an insurance policy, and the insurance policy comes out and it says, you have to return the 200 quid to the magician, and also thanks for naming the lemon Harry or whatever it happens to be. So I like to use it as a little gut punch at the very, very end. And I can't find a method that I like more for doing that sort of thing. And there's plenty of them, but that's my pick. I just know it's going to work every single time because physics.
So this version in particular, was it purely method based, or was it because it was a bit larger than other ones, or the emergency plot?
That was the big one. So another version that I absolutely love is David Penn's Mystery Solved. I think it looks brilliant. I have used it in shows in the past. The only difference being that if I'm doing a show that doesn't have live video projection, it is just a little bit smaller, which I think makes it perfect if you're doing table hopping or that sort of thing. But I'm primarily on stage these days. So for me, it just stood out that little bit more. And I do like that once you've done what you need to do, it's clean. People can sit and stare at it. You don't need to worry about what you're doing with your hands, that sort of thing. So I really enjoy that aspect of it. I suppose an honorable mention there, by the way, for something I have used before is literally using Jay Sankey's old paper clipped. That still works, and it works really, really, really well. So, I mean, you don't have to go and buy the prop. You can do the same thing, a little paper clip, and I did for many years on a little string.
Well, yeah, paper clipped is absolutely superb. Now, in terms of the routine that you're performing with this, is this a callback moment? Is it something that's running throughout your routine? Or is this just a literal, here's here, there's the card, bang, it's in there?
No, I tend to use it as a callback. I don't really do any versions with a deck of cards of mystery card, like cards in possible location. I've done cards to wallet and that sort of thing. But I've never really done it like it's been in the box the entire time. I usually use it for mentalism principle. Not that it doesn't work, it works, and it works really, really well. And I've seen other magicians on stage melt people's heads with it as well. I think it's brilliant. It's just not really my style. I think my reason for that is if I'm doing a show where there's a lot of mentalism and I'm trying to convince people that a prediction has been inside a balloon or has been inside a big chest the entire time, the last thing I want people thinking is that I can get a playing card into a box that's been there the whole time. I think it's too close, and it maybe gives away that that might be the same sort of thing. So I try not to do that wherever possible. I possibly am overthinking that, but for me, I think it's just a bit too close.
Okay, well, that is a great one. And again, like you said, this could be one of your stage pieces. So we'll find out at the end. And maybe at the end, we'll find out the different ways that you use it on stage as well, compared to close-up. But that leads us into number 3. So what did you put in your third spot?
Right, number 3 is impromptu. But I still had to write it down, so I don't actually have to bring anything with me, but I want to do this trick. Are you aware of iCurveball? I think is the name of the trick.
Was this an old Oz Perlman one from many, many years ago? Yeah.
Many, many years ago. And I think it's just one of the best hidden gems. I've actually never seen another magician like gigging it, certainly not in Northern Ireland. And it fries people. Still to this day, it still completely fries people. The simplest method, you know it's going to work. It can't really go wrong unless your audience management is very, very bad. It's going to work. And even times where it does fail, it's fine. Go in, do it again. And I absolutely love it. For those who don't know what the trick is, effectively, you take their phone, scroll through their contacts list. They scroll with the phone turned upside down. So even they don't know which contact they're picking. They stop somewhere. They check the contact they've stopped on. You will know the name of the contact and as much of their telephone number as you would like. And that's actually the bit that really, really gets people. I like to do the name, leave it there, and then maybe just 5-10 minutes later, I'll do a couple of other things. I'll go back and have a fun, creative way of revealing the last 4 digits of that person's phone number. And that it's too many levels of impossibility for a layperson to follow. Typically, I'll, maybe have the spectator deal out 4 piles of cards or that sort of thing, and the 4 numbers will match the telephone code. That tends to be, I actually find it very, very difficult to do another trick after doing that. And I think using their phone as well, and there's nothing to go wrong. I still haven't figured out how to do it on Android, so you do need to make sure it's iPhone user. Maybe there's a way to do it on Android, I don't know. But anytime I see an Android phone, I start to panic. I think most magicians think that way now too. So that would definitely be my choice. And I don't know how much I paid for that instant download, but it doesn't owe me a penny. I use it every single show.
Like, I'm fairly sure that was out around the time of Blackberries. It is an old download. Now, you mentioned that nothing can go wrong. Is that why you've stuck to this? Because there's so many ways to achieve this kind of effect now. Mm-hmm. And I would say that that's probably a very manual way of doing that. You're sort of... it's more like having billets as opposed to an electronic pad, for example.
Which, incidentally, is what I would typically choose to do. I just think when I'm doing gigs now, I can't take the risk that it isn't going to work, especially the sort of shows that I'm doing primarily on stage. They're like 20-minute to 30-minute at a push slots where they've booked in, they want the Blue Peter presenter. And I just can't risk something failing. And I've used sort of tech stuff in the past. And I suppose this is a tech trick, really. But the worst that can happen is their phone dies, in which case that's not really your fault. So it's fine. I just know if you're aware of the method that is going to work unless I do something very, very stupid. And then I've nobody to blame but myself. And I like things that are very much hands-on. And there's loads of amazing ways of doing it. And of course, these days, there's incredibly clever methods, which I'm not against. I use them all the time. I think they're fantastic. And maybe there's some more of those on the list. Who knows? But you have to find out. But this, for me, I just know it's going to work. And you know what? Whenever I've shown other magicians or they've seen me do it, they're like, how on earth does that fool anybody? But it does. And it really, really, really does. If you work on it and you get the subtleties down, it'll fry people.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things with the evolution of method. we think that the older methods are maybe not as good. But the truth is they are just as good, if not better. Like you just said, the manual control of that, knowing that what's happening is, you're controlling the outcome of that straight away. Yeah, I think magicians just overthink methods sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm so guilty of it as well. I like things to be very, very clever. I really do. And I have had so many convoluted ways of doing things, particularly on stage. But I think it's a nice thing, just as well. It's good to have one thing on the list that if you were just on a desert island with nothing but somebody with an iPhone for whatever reason, you could still do something great. And particularly now, as I'm not always confident with doing stuff with other people's phones, with calculators and that sort of thing, it's nice to have something that does use their phone. And I think anytime you're revealing personal information about somebody, it's always going to be better than a card trick. Not always, but most of the time it'd be better than a card trick or something with Rubik's Cube. I think when you're dealing with specific things, especially people, amazing. And for me, the best part about that trick is there's a lovely, I don't know if this is something that I added or not, but I love the moment where their phone's locked, they have a person in mind. They say, do you have their phone number saved, or is it just an email address? And, play dumb a little bit. And they don't even know themselves, which is so nice. So they can then go and check, and it disconnects. It's too impossible. So if you can either prove you knew that number beforehand, or if you can somehow get them to pick the number, that's even better. I don't like to just look into their eyes and tell them the code. I like to add a little separation if I can.
Yeah, that's great. That's such a nice idea. And I think Penguin, which is where this is available, is going to have a couple more sales after that because,
I hope so. Osborne, you're welcome.
Great. Well, that leads us to a number 4. So what's in your 4th spot?
Right, number 4. This is a slightly annoying one for people watching because I don't think this is available to purchase anymore. So sorry, magic shops. We're out of luck. But one of my favorite props of all time to do a specific trick is the Kozar pad. This is an add a number pad, which I have, which is now out of production. You could make your own very easily. It's sort of just like any add a number pad, if you know what that is. But for me, it's just so reliable and it doesn't feel, and it looks nice. It looks like something I'd be happy to have out on stage. I have other versions too, which work really well. There's impromptu versions of that with a stack of billets you can use. Or, things like Toxic Plus, for example, work really, really well. But I love an add a number pad, not necessarily for just numbers. If I had to pick something to use it for any sort of add a number principle, it'd probably actually be switching in either like embarrassing memories or words. And I know Colin Cloud had incredible work on that back in the day, which is where I would have first seen the pads in the first place. So if you haven't got yourself an add a number pad, you can't get that one, but do a bit of research. That little device can give you 15 minutes of gold on stage for something that just fits inside your pocket. And I love it so much. It can't be beat. And it's again so simple. It can't go wrong. Like, unless you have the world's worst spectator who's gonna really hook around with things on stage with you standing there, which you shouldn't allow, it's gonna work and it's gonna completely baffle people.
Yeah, well, I've not heard of the Kozar, but they did release something a few years ago called the Executive Pad, which was sort of a version of an older style pad. And without giving anything away, the pen is attached to the pad, and it's that method which allows the numbers to magically add up to what you would like them to. So I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but why did you go for
sort of
that
thing,
one? Yeah. Was there a reason that you went for that one in particular?
The particular reason I went for that one is it has an advantage that the other ones don't, in that it looks sort of like a notepad, which means, how do I describe this without giving away the method? You have access to more than one page, so the spectator can take and flip back the pages. So you could add a number, 5 bits of information rather than one, which might not necessarily be useful for numbers, but if you were to get audience information written down, that sort of thing. I'll not say too much. What I will say is one of the best resources for learning about this was Colin MacLeod's Penguin lecture from years ago. He has a full thing on this, which I'll not teach, obviously, here, but it's just superb. I do it slightly differently, but I think that if there's a mentalist who wants to add something great to their show, you could probably make your own version of the codes or pads. In fact, I know you could, and you could absolutely kill people with that. It's just superb.
Well, let's talk about the routine that you're going to perform with it then. So, this
Yes.
is sort of a mini devil's advocate. So, how are you using this? Is this part of a larger presentation, or is this a standalone, standout piece?
So much could use it for both. What I would use it for, if I could only do one thing, probably would actually be a pretty classic add a number, because although it's been done a lot, it still hits. And interestingly enough, I think most mentalists and magicians, including me, tend to go for a phone version where the audience are doing it along. And I love that version. I do just think people have seen it now, and I think get a little bit suspicious. Now, there's great. I mean, listen, I'm not hating on it at all because I've done it. I used it to close my last set of shows. But there's something about it being just a pad of paper, which is really, really innocent. So it might just be audience members write down some numbers. I would have them quickly show them to me, and I would act like I'm adding them up in my head before they can. So it would be a slight competition thing. Maybe I would get it slightly wrong. Maybe I would get it bang on. That's hit number one. And then at that point, you have any number of things you can do it for. Maybe it happens to be today's date, classic, or maybe you use perhaps crib text to make it a little bit more personal. My favorite use of it, and if I had to pick one, it would be to have that number reveal a pin number from somebody sat in the audience, which you have to come up with your own method for getting that info. There's plenty. Maybe there's something later on the list, and that is about as good as it can get, I think.
So far, we've had the deck of playing cards, we've had the clarity box, iCurveball, and the Kozar prediction pad.
Yes.
So far, I can't say which one for sure. I think it might be on there, but I think we've probably had at least one so far. I reckon we have to have.
I'm saying nothing. I'm saying nothing. But very, very possibly. Very, very possibly.
Great. Well, let's go on to number 5 then. So what's in your 5th position?
Okay, number 5 is I would bring, I'll be specific with this. I don't want to because I don't want these to sell out, and they have done before, but it's okay because I bought them in bulk. I would bring an absolute metric ton of billets, blank, double-sided blank billets. My favorite ones specifically are from the 1914. They are just, they answer all of my prayers. For years I was looking for something like this, and I was making my own billets. Specifically, if I had to do one thing with it, it would be to use, I always hate talking about this because I still think it's a slightly well-kept secret, but I would use it for Acidus Novus, which, if you know what that is, it's the best thing in the world. I think most of my early career was built off the back of that one move. If you don't know it, go learn it, and then don't tell anyone else. Keep the secret. It's so good, and I think if you know that, you don't really need to know much else. So I built most of my early career before doing shows publicly and before doing TV, just doing close-up gigs. And the way I used to pitch myself on business cards, it was a picture of me with a big notepad, and it had written on it, "This guy knows your PIN code," and pointing towards me. And I used to just go around table to table to table, telling people their bank pins. I don't really do that so much anymore, but you can reveal anything, And I think we sometimes forget the simplicity of just getting somebody to think of something and then telling them what it is in an interesting way. It's hard to follow that again. I use that move all the time, almost every day. If I'm out and about, if somebody asks to see a trick, I will use that method in there somewhere. So if you don't know it, I know there's Lewis Lavala, some good work on it as well. Hilariously, I spent years because I was just shown by another magician trying to make it as good as it could be. And then I watched Lewis's download and I'm like, oh, he's thought of everything too. Because I wanted my only and one release to the magic community to be my work on this move. And I'm like, oh, he's already thought of all that greatness. So that won't be coming anytime soon.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great choice. And one of our previous guests, Alexander Marsh,
Great.
Who's just a fantastic performer.
Who added me on Facebook this morning, weirdly. What a coincidence. Imagine that.
It's all meant to be. That's what it is. Now, he was on Blue Peter.
Yes, he was.
He performed his version of Acidus Novus.
So if you watch that,
it's very, very good.
Very good.
Find that clip, and it's like a full circle moment. Now, why Acidus Novus over, a center tear or a stack peak or any other kind of peak? Why that one?
Yeah, I think you just have to find what works for you. And I know plenty of peaks which I've used. Chris Rawlins, one of his draw and duplication peaks is one of my favorite things, and I use that all the time too. I think with Acidus Novus, I think it might just be the case of it happens to be the one that I've done the most. I never particularly like the center tear. I know it works and it works well, and some people absolutely kill with it. To be honest, it's probably because I'm lazy and I never put the work in to actually make it good. I think who am I to criticize it? Some of the greatest mentalists in the world do it and do very, very well with it. It's just not the one I decided to learn. For me, I really, really enjoy that they write something down and it's in their pocket and they know it's there, and they can check it afterwards. Because something I have noticed is that the only thing they can leap to usually with that sort of thing is it's special pen, there's a camera somewhere, or it's a special piece of paper. So usually when I do it and I perform it on people, especially if I'm doing pre-show, it's nice that you can hand them the card. It is one card, that's all it is. It is a normal pen, which I will leave them with as well, because people do like to take them apart and check. Maybe not so much now if your performance is better and they're convinced you're actually reading their mind. I learned that tends to help. But I just like that they don't even remember you taking it back, and it happens in such a split second. And if you practice it, it's one of those really, really sweet moments when you're doing that trick where you're like, this is unfair how far ahead I am right now. And you can stare at that thing if you needed to, but it just gives you such a nice window to get the information. I think the more you do it and the more you do it at gigs, you find tiny little things that just make it better and better, with the way you might want to fill out the cards, or the way little subtleties with how you might want to write it on the outside, and you find the fold. So yeah, if you don't know it, get yourself a set of blank billets. Next time you're watching the TV, sit and fold 200 of them and just get really good at it. And you will thank your future self. No, your future self will thank you. That's a hard one to work out. So that's definitely on my list. I suppose I'm cheating there because I probably needed to add a Sharpie into the mix. So it's two things really, isn't it?
I mean, you've already snuck a phone in. Let's all be honest. I didn't point it out earlier, but you've snuck a phone in already. So we'll give you the phone and we'll give you the Sharpie. All right, we'll give you both.
I'll take that.
We've seen the messages. You guys have been asking for an Alakazam convention for literally 3 decades. As you guys know, with Alakazam, we want everything to be perfect. And the hardest part of a convention is finding a venue that fits every single need. So until we find that venue, the wait will continue. Okay, the wait is over. We have done it. Check this out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the venue for the Alakazam Magic Convention. Now, where we are now is actually the main lobby, the main hub for the Alakazam Convention. This is where you're going to be chilling out. This is where you're going to be jamming, where you're going to be spending time meeting new friends. All around here makes the perfect place to meet new people, to share new ideas, to teach some little subtleties, some sleight of hand that you may have learned. And here we have the bit some of you are interested in, right? The bar, where you can get the food, where you can get the drinks. It's a fully stocked bar with everything you could ever want. Hot food, snacks, ice cream, popcorns, you name it, it will be there. At the end of the lobby, up there, will be where the cherry-picked dealers will be. So there'll be some dealers on show at the end there, where they'll be showing you the latest and greatest magic tricks available on the market. Now, all this is incredible. That's without even looking at where the lectures and masterclasses will be. So guys, why don't we take a look at where that'll be? And the lectures and masterclasses are going to be happening right here. Now, we've thought about everything. So whether you're sat on the front row or the back row, it's fully tiered seating, giving you a perfect view no matter where you're sat. Now, I know what you're thinking, what about card magic? How are we going to see it close up? Well, we've even thought about that. There is a full cinema screen that's going to be having a close-up shot of everything that you're going to need to see. So tickets are available right now, but they are in very, very limited quantity. If you want to be part of the Alakazam Magic Convention, then make sure you grab your ticket now. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss it. We've thought about everything. We know you're going to absolutely love it. Join us now.
But
stuff.
it leads us on to number 6. So we've actually gone, looking at your list, it's very mentalism heavy as well. So we're getting the idea that you're swaying more towards the mentalism and not so much the egg bag. So where are we at number 6?
Well, this one's about to freak you out then, Jamie, because we're taking a 180 real quick. Okay, wait, on that point, interestingly, before I did Blue Peter, my entire show was mentalism, and whenever I performed at gigs, I pitched myself as a mentalist. The word magician nowhere ever once was in my marketing at all. It was just that whenever lockdown happened, that I realized that it was really hard to get that to play well on camera. And I'd started out as a magician, so I slowly sort of pivoted and realized that that's what I suppose people maybe expected of somebody that looked like me and sort of my age range. They like the magic. So my favorite stuff is mentalism, and that's just the way I like it. With that in mind, have you heard of Crystal Cleaver by Tenyo? Dude, so I have a little story about this. I remember when I was growing up, I was a little magic nerd and still am. And I used to watch a show every single Wednesday at 12 o'clock, the Wizard Product Review, which I'm sure most magicians here will be aware of, back in the days of Craig and Dave. And I used to look forward to that every single week. And most of the time, I would have a good idea as to maybe what was going on. And then they performed the Crystal Cleaver. And I have never been so fooled by anything in my entire life. My little mentalism brain could not fathom. If you haven't seen the trick, essentially, you got a little stand. You got a little clear box that goes on top of the stand. You set a borrowed ring inside that stand, put a little cover over it. You don't touch it. You put a sword straight through the ring. I can't even describe it. Google it and look at this trick. Maybe you'll work it out right away, but I could not figure this out. 4 years. And I was like, at the time, no money. I was a teenager and all my money was going on billets and decks of cards. So I could never justify spending the money on it. Until then, I remember when COVID was happening and I was starting to find tricks that I wanted to do online. And I thought, I wonder if that trick still exists. And when it arrived in the post and I saw how that trick worked, I have not squealed like it in my life. The method is just so clever, and it's all examinable as well. You can hand it to someone and they can play with it to kingdom come. I think it's a magician fooler. Lay people love it as well. It's a real puzzle. And whenever people come around the house and I have that thing, I'm dying to show it to them. So I could literally sit on a desert island and just entertain myself with that method over and over again. I love everything by Tenyo, but that's my favorite.
Yeah, I think this is a real nostalgic piece for a lot of magicians. Certainly, this is one that I had when I was really little. This must have been like maybe 10, 11. It was the first Tenyo trick that I had, followed by Invisible Zone, but that was Marvin's Magic as opposed to Tenyo at the time. So it's fantastic. Now, I think we've spoken about this before. Someone needs to create a full-size stage version of that trick somehow.
Do you know, it's funny you say that. I remember whenever I was doing my first television show with BBC Northern Ireland, the director wanted to do that actually, because I was just showing him some bits and bobs and I was like, oh, look at this, it's silly. And he was like, how would you do that on stage or as a big illusion? And I thought, I'm not actually going to say that because it'll give away the method, but he alluded to something and I thought, yeah, that sounds really expensive to do a full-size version of that, but if Copperfield's watching, get to it.
Number one, if there's someone inside a glass box on a plinth that gets covered up, I want to be that person because I want to be inside when the magic's happening. I think that would be great.
It's so good, man. I'm really, I was going to talk about something I can't talk about, but I'll tell you afterwards, Jamie. There might be something that will interest you with that trick, but I will say, just that alone, although it maybe looks cheapy and plastic and silly, I still think that if you really present it as such and you're like, listen, this is not magic, but this will just very much confuse you. I think people really buy into it and enjoy it. And I think maybe I like the trick more than the general public do. And it maybe appeals to magicians more than lay people, but I don't care. This one's for me. I'm being selfish now.
Well, that leads us to the tail end. So we've got 2 more, 7 and 8. It'll be interesting. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you're commenting down below which 2 you think are in the show, in Joel's show. Because so far, I'm gonna just go for Crystal Cleaver, and that's it.
Just right.
Let's go for number 7. What's in your 7th spot?
Number 7 is a wonderful piece of magic, and I couldn't for the life of me remember until I started researching for this what it was called or who it was by, but it is called Timeless by Liam Montier. First time I saw it done was the Ulster Society of Magicians convention, I think back in 2012, and I was still a teenager, and both Joshua Jay and Andy Gladwin came over to do lectures. It was an amazing convention. I think still for me, probably the most special convention because magicians like coming to Northern Ireland, and Josh Jay was there, Lucha May, Aldo Colombini, Axel Heckler. There were just all these magic legends and all in one room at the same time. But the standout trick, Andy Gladwin got up there and he did Timeless. And I remember pretending to go to the toilet and going back so I could, at the end of the lecture, be closest to the table to make sure I got one of those things. And I did. I was like, what, please sell me one of these right now. And for then, I thought there was going to be some crazy... I'll explain the trick for those who don't know. Essentially, trick's very simple. The way I present it is you take off your wristwatch, you invite somebody on stage, they pull the pin out of the watch and twist it to a random time. If you're smart about it, you can show the different times. I choose not to show the audience the face at any point during the routine, just the spectator on stage. They choose time, memorize the time, and you can then reveal to them what the time is, only for them to find out that the watch has no hands and there's no time at all. And they could go to a jeweler's, they could take that watch apart and they'll find nothing. It's a normal watch with no hands. Like you, Jamie, I had no idea whatsoever. And the method is one of those ones you just go, it can't be. It can't be. And then you think that's not going to work. And then you do it and you go, oh, it does work. It works really, really well. So it's an absolutely excellent piece. I think they've put out new versions of it recently, but the one I'm talking about is this sort of simple white face watch with an old little leather strap, which mine's falling to pieces, holding together with duct tape. But I just love it so much. And I choose to present it in a way where it's sort of like pseudo hypnosis. So I bring the person up to a couple of little auto suggestion things and then go into that. And I just think it's wonderful. Big pad of paper, get the time written down, bingo, kick them in the teeth. And if you do happen to do it, one thing I would suggest doing, even though you run the risk of losing the prop and it getting a bit beat up like mine is let the watch get passed around the room afterwards, because people really enjoy loving and seeing it. And there's always some skeptical person that will sit and try and twist the little thing to try and get the hands to come back on, and they're going to find nothing. So yeah, it's a great thing. If I was doing a big run of shows again now and I found out that you could get those, I would buy one for every night and give it away as a souvenir. It's just awesome.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful trick, and I love the idea that you're using it for pseudo-hypnosis. I think that's really smart. And I remember many years ago, I work for Alakazam now, so this is really bad because I know it's an Alakazam trick, but it's a very old one. And the idea is that you would have someone close their eyes, and you say to them, so essentially in a minute you're going to look at a card from this deck of cards. And I just want you to log it in your mind, right? So close your eyes. So they close their eyes, and you show the audience that you switched the deck for a blank deck, very, very openly. And then you get the person to hold the cards in their hand. They break open at one point. They see a card, and you say, so do you see a card? And they say yes. So you look confused. The audience are thinking, what? You say, great, well, close your eyes again. You take the deck off them and show that they're blank. So you get this lovely pseudo-hypnotic thing. And I feel like that's almost what you've done with this. It's almost like, can you see the time there? Really? You can?
Yeah.
I'm going to let the audience see this. Just don't look back at the camera. You guys see what this looks like. Okay, this is what she's seen. Fine. And then put the watch down. So I love the idea of it being used for pseudo-hypnosis.
Dude, it's something I used to just always keep in my case for any corporate show I did. If I was doing, or theater show, if I was doing any real hypnosis, I always like to have something that makes you look like it still works, even if for whatever reason it happens to fail that night and you don't knock them out, the hands don't stick together. It's okay. You go, oh, interesting. You know, we'll try this instead. And you just have something which still appears to be hypnosis, even if it's not. So I really, really enjoy it. I think it might go, that might go in my top 3 tricks of all time. Actually, I love it so much. And you don't see a lot of people doing it. either. It's quite rare to see. I will say as well, if you want to do like a more suggestion based thing, you can be clever with your scripting. And I can't even remember what I said. Oh, I used to talk about my tooth hurting and stuff like that, and then 2:30, and there were lots of things in there that you could backtrack and say very rip off Darren Brown back in the day when I was doing that routine. But yeah, there's so much you can do with it. And yeah, I think there are recent versions that have come out, but I haven't checked those out yet. So I'm going with the classic. Thanks, Liam.
Yeah, it's a great trick. I'm glad that you put it in there. Now, I feel like a bit of a magic detective in this episode, which I've not had before, because I'm still trying to work out which two are in your show. Now, anyone who's listening that were listening tentatively to what you just said there with number 7, anyone that was listening would have realised that you said, if I did a run of shows in the future, I would just buy one for each night, which tells me that's likely not in your current show.
Whoa!
Oh, so I think we've got one out there. I think we got, well, and let's all be on Crystal Cleaver, probably not great for stage. So I'm removing both of those.
Video projection, Jamie.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I actually don't have video in one of the shows. The theater doesn't have it, so that's out the window for that one particular night. But who knows? Maybe it's in there.
Well, I'm going. I've got down to 5 so far. I'm going to give myself that. Right. Let's find out what's in your final spot. Okay,
so in number 8. And as this is the final one, I'm going to very quickly rattle off a couple of honorable mentions that didn't quite make it to the list, sadly. I'll not go through every single one of them, but those who know will know. An amaze box would be on there if you ever use one of those. Just quality stuff. Use that a ton. Mark Kernstein's wiki test, which of course I couldn't put it on there because I'm going to need a phone as well. That thing I use to death. It's the only real piece of tech magic that I actually do. And Ringleader by Greg Wilson. That would be on there as well. I haven't done that in probably 15 years, but I still think if I was to go back and I was to do table hopping again, I'd be rinsing that thing. I love it so much. So, but they didn't make the list. Jamie, they didn't make the list because they're not good enough. No, they're brilliant. Number 8 is Blockhead. Number 8 is Blockhead. So for those who don't know what that is, at least the way I present it is you take a very real nail. I like to throw it inside a pint glass and rattle it around in some water, have somebody else take it out, check that it is indeed solid, chuck it in there again, shake it around, make sure it's nice and wet and dripping. It's a nice visual. And I play up to the audience member about them trusting me and how much they trust me and are they willing to try something, and have them hold their hand out flat and I position the nail on their hand, to which I then pull out a gigantic hammer and go to hammer it in the hand only to stop. But hilariously, most spectators are fully willing to go along with it with a real nail on their hand, which just goes to show you we have a position of trust in this job. At that point, I say, no, of course, I wouldn't be crazy enough to put that through your hand or my hand. That would be the end of my living. But I can do this. And you proceed to take this nail and hammer it inside your nostril, straight into the back of your throat. And it just looks gruesome. It just looks crazy. It looks unreal. And the best part is when you get the spectator to pull it out. I get them to pull it out, drop it in the glass, and send it back to them as a souvenir that they will never touch again.
That's a great choice. Now, I actually think that's probably the most curveball from your list, because earlier on we spoke about your audience. Obviously, your audience has changed. Maybe you would have had a broader demographic with your social media, and now you have younger people come into your shows. Now, I don't think I would mind putting this into a kid's show necessarily, with the right warnings, obviously. But arguably, you'd have to put the same warnings for kids and adults with this kind of trick anyway. Is this one of the ones that you have had to pull, or would you still put it into a show that you're currently working on?
So truthfully, actually, it came out of my show for a while. This was one of my staples that I did in every single stand-up gig, and close-up too. Close-up, not usually with a hammer, but with a spoon, which just, it almost is better, I think, because you can really hammer that thing in there. The reason I took it out for a while was I thought that because of what happened during COVID, and because people started getting used to the idea of putting cotton swabs and stuff up their nose, that it gave away the method. I find that people still just don't think you'd be crazy enough to do that with a nail. So I've never had anyone guess. People will still believe that that is a collapsible nail or a rubber nail or something like that. And people who know the method will know it's not that. So I recently started doing it again, just out and about. It's a tricky one to travel with because, airport security. But when I can, I like to try and do it. And it still just gets the most freakish reactions. If anything, I think since lockdown, it's got even better because people know how uncomfortable that sensation is with just the tiniest little bit of cotton bud, which is a good way to practice. But would I put it in a kid show? Yes. Yes, I would. I don't think it's a problem. I think so long as you don't play it that you're in absolute crisis pain, which is never how I've liked to play it anyway. I think it's absolutely fine. Give the right warnings. Don't try this at home. Try it at somebody else's home. All the usual caper. And actually, I think it could be quite funny to do with a kid on stage. I think if you got the right sort of like raucous little kid, it could be really funny watching them even hammer this into your face. One interesting thing is that the first time I saw it done was in Darren's show. I think it was Something Wicked This Way Comes. Could be wrong about that. But it's one of his very early shows, and I saw it and went, oh my good Lord, how on earth? And I learned it from Brian Brushwood off Scam School is where I first saw it. And I was like, there's no way that is how that's done. What I didn't realize, my best guess is that the hammer that Darren might have been using might not have been quite as heavy as the one that I was using for my parents' garden shed. So I was doing this trick with the heaviest hammer. I'm wondering why I was getting nosebleeds when I rehearsed this thing all the time. So I will say, if you're going to learn this thing, go easy on yourself. It's one of those moments when you're rehearsing, you're like, who am I trying to impress with this? What am I doing? But I just think it's so good. And I know Mark Spellman has work on it as well. I've seen him do it. I think he might use 2 nails or something, not too sure. But just awesome. And for the right person, I think it's great. Plus, at the time when I was doing it more and more, I had a whole bunch of piercings in my face. So I used to have a routine with that where I talked about, having the piercings, tattoos, and I got so used to them, I don't even feel pain from anything sharp anymore. And I used to have a septum ring, and it used to just look nasty whenever the nail would go in, and it would sort of like link in with a septum ring. It was really, really fun.
And you mentioned Mark Spellman. If you are looking at doing this, I know that we are Alakazam and this is an Alakazam podcast, but just on a personal point of view, this is something that I'm aiming to put into scary, spooky shows, basically. And his teaching on it is by far the most comprehensive, the best in terms of safety, doing it in the right way, in the right settings. And you mentioned he used to put a whole group in his face. So, no one
Maybe
has
that's
more
the
experience.
secret why he looks so young. Maybe that's like some sort of weird looks maxing thing. It's giving him youthful energy. I don't know. I'm going to find out what he's doing one day. He looks too good.
It's the weirdest kind of acupuncture I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's one, by the way, that I refuse to do anymore. The old acupuncture through the hand. Used to do that a long time until I did hit the wrong point in my hand. I couldn't do the rest of my gig. So yeah, obviously goes without saying for anyone listening, if you're under 18, don't go and do that trick, for goodness sake. It's not worth it, but I enjoy it. And one little tip, I'm not sure if this was mine. I think it might be something I added, but it was so many years ago. There was a great moment I loved when I did it on stage, which was I would have some bandages on the table beside the hammer and the nails. And just as I go to pick up the bandages to hand the spectator before giving the hand, when the bandages fall over off the table, they're just smeared in blood. And it's just a little thing that I really enjoy. I probably got that, now I'm thinking about it, from Darren's old psychic surgeries, where I imagine younger me picked that up from. But it's a nice little moment.
Yeah, that's such a great idea. Now, we are at the end of your list, so I'm just going to quickly revisit it quickly. So we had the deck of playing cards, but a special kind of deck, preferably Night Flights from the wonderful Steve Della. We had the Clarity Box, iCurveball, the Kozar Prediction Pad. We had Billets, of which we would use it for Acidus Novus. We had Crystal Cleaver. We had Timeless, which is a phenomenal trick, and we ended with Blockhead. Now, hopefully everyone has guessed which two. I'm gonna go for which two I think are in your show. So
okay.
I don't think Blockhead would be in your current one, although you said you wouldn't have a problem with kids coming to the show. Crystal Cleaver I don't think would be in it just for the size necessarily. I think you mentioned having someone come onto the stage with Timeless, so I'm gonna keep Timeless in one that I think you've put in, and I'm gonna put the Prediction Pad in there as well. So I'm gonna go for Timeless and the Kozar Prediction Pad. Let's see how I did.
Very, very good guesses. And sadly incorrect, Jamie Dolls. I'm so
No!
sorry. But I think it's slightly unfair in that, of course, any of the tricks I've named there, I would have no problem putting in the new show at all. It just happens actually that both of the tricks that you went for were in my last run of shows. And so I'm not, there'll be a lot of repeat people back in Northern Ireland, so I'm not doing it. What I am actually doing is what origin? Well, I'll tell you the first one. The first thing is that I am using Acidus Novus in the stage show for one moment to get me into David Penn's Wonderful Pie Revelations. That's a routine that I'm using in the show, which I haven't done on stage before, but I've done close up for a long time. So if you know what that is, I'm sure you can imagine why I might want to use Acidus Novus for that. And again, I have all the fancy pads and electronic things. I like that. I know that that number is going to be there and it's going to be there every single night where I want it. So Acidus Novus is in there, as is a deck of special cards from Steve Della. That's in there as well. Actually, for a massive big section of the show, I had a rule for many years, which was no card tricks on stage because I just did it so much close up and I thought people, they don't want to see a card trick on stage. But I've changed my tune on that, and there's a good 20 minutes just with one deck of cards in the stand-up stage show now, which is exactly as I said. It's a lot of Mnemonica stuff, so hopefully no lay people are watching this and coming to see the show. That'll give away a big deal of the plot. I will say though, I'm there might be sneaky here, a little bit sneaky. I might throw Blockhead in there. I'm just not sure yet. It's only a quick 5 to 6 minute thing. It'll depend how the first show goes, see how we do for timing. But I have a really nice routine I'm working on there, which is a slightly different approach to using Blockhead. So effectively, I suffer from something known as psychosomatic pain, which means as I speak right now, I've had chronic back pain for probably about 5 years at this point. I've been in the hospital with it before, couldn't figure out what it was, scans. And as it turns out, I have what they call ghost pain or psychosomatic pain. So there's nothing wrong with my back, but I have crippling level of pain to where there's days I haven't, and I've been on set with Blue Peter where I haven't been able to walk or bend over, which I have to be seated for. It's got really, really bad until I worked out that it was psychosomatic pain I've been treated for, and I'm pretty much 95% better now. But I use that and I explain how that works as a justification for how I'm able to do a lot of things and turn the pain senses off in my head, which is what you have to learn to do with deal with psychosomatic pain. Is you have to be able to feel pain sensations, realize that pain is an illusion, and it is a lot of the time, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, and mine it was. It's a true story. So I'm going to link the two in together like that, and I've got all the graphics and all the props. There's a great story about a nail going through a boot. That's a real story, and a guy being in agony pain only to find out it went between his pinky toe and his other toe, and it wasn't a real pain. The brain, it's a whole big sort of psychological piece. But I really want to put it in the show. But just as you said, I'm not sure if 8-year-olds are going to appreciate that. So it might be something that I do down the line. But I really want to put it in the show at the end of the month. We'll see.
Wow, I think that's such a great hook, and I think there's so many avenues you can go down. My concern for you would be, how do you know the difference between psychosomatic pain and real pain? Because then you could tell yourself that the pain is not real, but then that is something that you need to get to the hospital for.
Yeah. It's really difficult to work out, and I've never actually spoke about this ever anywhere publicly. The last 2 years have been okay, but for 3 years prior, I really was in a pretty bad way because my back pain was so bad. And my dad has it as well. It tends to be something that can be passed down. I went to doctor after doctor after doctor and physio after physio, and none of them could tell me why I was experiencing such pain. And it's hard. I mean, people who have chronic pain don't like to be told it's all in your head, but that is the only way to sort of describe it to someone who hasn't felt it. But my gosh, pain is set off in your body the same way, whether it's real or not. So it's why you'll find amputees, for example, who can still feel like they have pain in their arm, even though their arm's not there. It's called ghost pain sometimes. The only way that I was able to figure it out was that it moved around so much and it would be painful one day and not painful the next, which is not how a real injury operates. A real injury would heal. So there was a great guy called Dan Buglio online that my friend, actually a magician buddy of mine, had the same thing. Great guy. He worked with Julius Dean for a long time, but he had very, very bad pain in his hands. He went and got stem cell replacement, everything, nothing worked. until he discovered that he had psychosomatic pain, and I was completely fine. So he actually put it onto me in the first place, and it just so happened to be that's what it was. So I still get it now and again, and if I talk about it for a long time, it kind of makes me giggle because I'll start to feel my back hurt. But it just doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't stop me doing anything. But for the first couple of years of Blue Peter, it was pretty rough. All those I just got this dream job, and suddenly I was struggling to bend past like this position without being increasing pain. So I'm very lucky that I've managed to get out of that, and yeah, hopefully it remains that way.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're sort of on top of it now, and it's maybe not as bad as it was. But it's just a fascinating thing anyway. It's just something that maybe a lot of people haven't heard of. So yeah, I think it's an interesting hook for the
Thanks, man. Yeah, it would be distilling that pile of waffle I just gave you into a succinct sentence or a couple of sentences to try and make that a thing. So I don't know, but it's something that's quite important to me. And in my shows, I don't really talk too much about me, but it's something I do want to talk about because there's a lot of people that actually have that disorder with psychosomatic pain and don't even know they have it. And I always said if I got out of it, I would tell as many people as I can. And I didn't really fulfill on that promise because, I mean, who do I tell? Like, it's not something you just chuck up necessarily on Blue Peter. So, yeah, but no, doing way better now. And I think if anyone is watching and they do happen to have had like back pain, for example, for 10-15 years, and there's a lot of people, more than you think, look up that guy Dan Buglio on YouTube. He really helped me out, all for free as well. They don't pay a penny. I spent a lot of money on physio, a lot on acupuncture too.
Just thinking, we're going off on a tangent at this point, but thinking about there's the old experiment where you have the divider and you have the fake arm. So
Yes.
that would be an excellent way to get into it because you would also have the hammer. So you'd have your audience member up there, put their arm out, and then you talk about psychosomatic pain. You do that as your demonstration of what that is. They get a reaction, and then you take out the nail and use the hammer to then put that into your nose.
Dude, you might have just convinced me to put this in my show at the end of the month. And if I do, I will film and send you, and I will give you credit on stage if you're happy for me to use the idea. That is splendid.
There you go. And anyone else is now going to be doing it as well. We may just get edited out. Well, that's great, and I'm like I say, I'm glad that you're on the mend, and it's something for us all to think about as well. But we are on to your final three now. Obviously, we gave you 8 tricks, Joel, but we've only given you one each of these. So let's do the controversial one. What does a Blue Peter politically correct presenter want to banish onto his island?
Strap in, lads. No. Well, I will tell you, this was the hardest one for me to figure out. You know, this was harder than figuring out the tricks. So I've written down 2 honorable mentions, which I'll go through very fast. But then I'll tell you what I settled on. One of the things was mentalists doing a mind reading effect only to prove the exact same thing had already been predicted from the start. I think unless that's done in a very clever way with a story that makes sense, it just you've wasted everyone's time. You know, I mean, come on, it completely undoes all the amazing stuff you've done. Maybe I'm thinking too much like a magician like that, and the general audience don't care. But that and sort of, you know, like the quadruple revelation of the same thing, it just doesn't make sense to me, and it always grinds my gears when I see it. So that was an honorable mention. Okay, I have my final banishment. My banishment is one specific hackline which is used and I think loved all around the world by magicians, and that is hold out your hands, know the clean one. Oh wait, that was the clean one. I hate it so much. I hate everything about it. When I see a magician doing it, I cringe inside. And the sad thing about it is kind of a little bit funny. So I get why people use it, and we're asking people to hold their hands out all of the time. But for me, I tell you why I don't like it. I don't like it because I'm really not a fan of anything in general which puts the spectator down, even in a jokey way, unless they do it to me first. I'm so on for doing a little heckler back and forth. I've never really had to deal with hecklers too much, and I think the reason that is because I don't use lines like that. I don't feel like the audience are kind of like waiting to give it to. I've always sort of gone in with the approach of just getting on with everyone, having a laugh. I'm not pretending to be magic and just showing them something funny. So I've never really had to do this battle with the alpha male of the group. I think just be nice with them. Don't flirt with their wife like I see magicians doing, and don't use those hack lines. The reason I specifically don't like that one is I've seen magicians do that line and they've made the joke about hold out your hand, no, the clean one. And I'm thinking to myself, bro, if one of the two people right now has a dirty hand, it's not them. Like, the guest at this glorious corporate event in a lovely suit, and this magician has rocked in telling someone they have dirty hands. Come on, like it's not. And then it makes you think about like, oh, dirty hands and handling cards, and we're all sharing them. It's a bit gross. Ugh, it just leaves the sort of ugh, inside my mouth. I don't like it terribly much. So I think in general, I'm not a fan of hack lines. I mean, listen, I have plenty of the classic ones, just the sort of like silly asides that we've all nicked from the years, and we have them, but I'm not really a fan of using them unless someone, I suppose, deserves it. Like, I'll have a couple on stage if someone's not playing ball or whatever, just, but it's never done in a like behave yourself, or I'm gonna make fun of you. I think that makes it worse for the most part. I mean, and especially for me, I always had to be mindful at events. I'm a very skinny, quite small person, and it never worked for me to go battling against the big guy. That just never worked for me. If anything, I would love to some magicians hand them. This isn't my magic book choice, but hand them. What's that old book? I haven't read it in years. Oh, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'd love to give them that and be like, learn that instead of the hack lines. You don't need them. Just be nice, and you're not going to have to use them. Yeah, I mean, some of them have aged quite badly. Maybe it's a sign of the times. Don't get me wrong. The right performer can probably get away with it and kill with it. But for me, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't make sense.
Well, on your island, everyone has clean hands, so there's no point in even mentioning unclean hands, all right? So we don't have to worry about that anymore. Now, we're on to your last two items. So what is in your book position, Joel?
Oh, okay. So again, long and hard to think about. I nearly picked Maximum Entertainment, which I think is a great book. Most magicians should read, but that's not the one I'm going to pick. I also love Before We Begin, Assi Wynn's book. I thought that was brilliant, but I haven't picked that one. I have picked a book that I haven't even read yet, and I'm going to tell you why. I thought about this. If I was stuck on an island, firstly, I'd like to have the novelty of one that I know is brilliant, but I just haven't read yet, that I already own, so I can bring it right to the island. But I've had quite a number of magicians including Richard Young, actually, and told me, Joel, you specifically need to read this book. And it's Darren's latest, Notes from a Fellow Traveler. I have the book. I have it sitting right there in the bookshelf. And I got the old fancy version, that hardback signed one. It's a big flex, flip that on eBay. But from what I've heard, it's just a masterful thing. And there's not a lot of magic books that I want to read that I haven't yet. Most of the time, if I want to, I just go ahead and do it, or I'll get it on a PDF or something. But I'll go on record in saying that I think, in my opinion, I think Darren's the greatest alive. I think everything he does is just splendid. As we talked about before the show, I'm seeing him next week. So anything that he has put in a book specifically for magicians wanting to put together a show, I can't see how that's not going to be really, really valuable. And that's why I'm going to pick it. So I think that speaks highly of him that I'm choosing it without even having read it. But yeah, I think who's going to disagree with picking a Darren Brown book?
Well, I think it's more the idea that you've already said that you have seen his shows growing up. So you already have that affiliation with him and his work. But it's also someone who's been there and done that, right? And you are now doing the same thing. You've now got your your second show, I think you just said, that you're doing. So you know that book's going to be full of gems from someone that's been there and done it.
Just as a writer in general, Jamie, I think it's really lovely to read. I've read all his other books as well, and there's a lot of real wisdom in them too. So I like the way he writes. I think it'd just be an enjoyable experience to sit through that. The book looks gorgeous. It's nice. It would look well on the desert island. The sort of sandy brown color would blend in very, very beautifully, I think. I will say as well, for anyone who's watching this, I can talk about something here, which I'm not allowed to talk about public domain, but I can here because it's magicians, is if you want a good laugh, keep an eye on British TV, because I was on that show Celebrity Mastermind recently, and it hasn't gone out yet, but it goes out, I think, in a couple of months. And my specialty subject was Darren Brown. And I'll not tell you how I did, but it happened. And I picked Darren Brown. Luckily, I didn't have to read that book for my research. They didn't include that in what I had to learn. But it says so much about Darren in that I had to literally study him for an exam, basically. And it was the biggest joy ever because everything he's done is just splendid. And I'm sure there's so many magicians that are watching this that wouldn't be if it wasn't for him doing his thing.
Wow. I don't even know if I would go on there with Darren Brown Mastermind because I just think there's just so much. He's just had such an incredible career. There must be so much to digest in that.
It was vast. And I realized as I was studying for it that I had made a big mistake. One of my co-presenters on Blue Peter told me not to pick a person because you have their whole life to look at. So they could ask me anything that was publicly available about him on the internet, any news articles, his books, anything on YouTube, which is, by the way, all of his TV shows now pretty much live on his YouTube channel. So that was silly, but it was really fun. And the reason I did pick it in the end was because I wanted to choose something study that I would actually enjoy the studying process. So at least it wouldn't feel like work. And it really didn't. It was very, very fun, though I did make notes and I did have to read Confessions of a Conjurer. That was the one book they said, make sure you read that one. So I read it cover to cover and took notes and I didn't even get asked any questions from it.
Wow, that's a kick in the teeth, isn't it? How mean is that?
Heart breaks. Great book, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that you're going to love it. It's a great book. But it does lead us onto your item. So, in your final spot, the non-magic item, Joel, that you use for magic.
I have it right here. I have it in my hand. I have it right here. The item I would bring, if anything, just for nostalgia, but also some magic uses, I would bring a Blue Peter badge. It has to be done, Jim. I gotta flex. It has to be done. I'll tell you why I picked this, right? Because I had a couple of other things on originally, and then I thought, what am I talking about? I actually had iPhone written there, which I thought, kind of defeats the purpose of being on a desert island. That's not really fair. I had double stick tape on the list at one point because I thought there's loads of great stuff you can use that for magic. The reason I picked this is like the best thing ever. So when you're a Blue Peter presenter, obviously you get one of these, but they'll have me doing magic with it on the show sometimes about make sure you get your badge and make it appear or something like that. These things were made to do magic with. I swear to God, they have the perfect finger indents to stick something in palm. Maybe not so much. I'm going to take this big ring off. It's the most comfortable thing to palm of all time because this little divot at the back sits between your two fingers and then these fingers curl around it perfectly. So it sits, and no matter where you hold it, it sits in your hand. You'll not see it. It just looks absolutely awesome. And you can go, oh no, I haven't done it right. There has to be the other way around. My hands are a little bit slippy right, but the old making it appear that way. It can curve around and you can pinch it from that way. It's the best thing. So I do magic with this all the time. Specifically, if I meet a fan out and about and they have a badge, it's great to be able to take it off them and then you can dump it out of a Sharpie cap, make it disappear. So I do magic with this thing all the time. And even just pulling it out from behind someone's ear, these things make people happy. If you're not from the UK, you'll not necessarily understand that. But if you're in the UK, these things make people very, very, very happy. And it's one of the best parts of the job. So I try to use it in magic. And whenever I'm doing stage magic, if a kid comes up and they are really, really great during the routine, one of these will usually be behind their ear at the end of the trick and they'll get to take one home. So I think I'd be going far wrong if I didn't choose this.
That's great. That's absolutely excellent. Now, I think we've had maybe 3 or 4 guests that I can think of that have one. So we had Dean Levy, who has been on Blue Peter. We had Alex McAleer, Alexander Marsh. And I think Richard Young as well said that he's been on Blue Peter as well.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think. There's been so many magicians that have been on the show since I've joined because I can't help but keep inviting people to go. I just like having magicians in. I will say, we also actually took Blue Peter to Blackpool Magic Convention 2 years ago, and we did a whole special on that, which was really a silly idea to bring a whole camera crew in. I mean, as if you don't see enough mad stuff, seeing all these lights and booms being walked around the aisles was great fun. But I'll say, I think it's so hard to choose. Since I've been on the show, the magician that's been on it for me was just the most special, and they've all been wonderful, friends with all of them. But Mario, the Maker Magician, was on, I think, just over a year ago, and it was the most amazing thing. Personally, his Edinburgh show is what made me want to pitch him. It's probably the only magician I've actively went out of my way and been like, you have to book this guy to come in and do it live on TV. It's extraordinary if you haven't looked up Mario. But for the first time ever, we were live. Mario opened the show and he wanted it to be the first time it was seen by the kids because usually we would say do rehearsal, whatever. He didn't want to do that in front of the kids. He said, I wanted to be a surprise. He's a total pro. Came out, gave it the absolute beans, gave one of the best magic performances I've ever seen. And in my earpiece, I heard, okay, nobody panic, but the last 10 minutes have gone out without any sound. So his entire segment went out with just him going around, going crazy, robots, monkeys doing magic, and there was no sound on it at all. And I thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So I knew that what was going to happen is we're certainly not going to stop him in the middle of it, but it's live, remember? So they fixed it probably for the first 30 or last 30 seconds of his act. We then came on, I did an interview with him, whatever it happens to be. He taught some other tricks, did an amazing job. And then right after the show ended at 5:30, we had to go back and he had to do the whole thing again for the same group of kids to then paste into the iPlayer. And Mario was that good that he did the exact same routine twice and got an even bigger reaction the second time because he just gave it even more energy. So massive wide side anecdote, but that's my favorite magic memory from the show so far.
Wow, that must have been horrendous when it happened, but amazing to see him perform again after.
Yeah, and dude, his act alone is just unbelievable. It's one of the, I mean, I've had this a couple times in recent years going to see some great shows, but I genuinely left his show going, what have I been doing? Like, this is just the amount of effort and creativity and love and care that goes into every single second of his show is just mesmerizing to me. And every kid felt seen and loved, and the parents loved it as much as the kids. People were cackling and shrieking at the stage, and he brought his very lovely family down. They're just an amazing group of people. So I hopefully have them back sometime if you haven't looked him up. And I'm sure every single person watching this knows Mario, knows what he does. But if he hasn't, because I didn't until last year, go check him out. It'll just blow your mind.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for that list. Let's go back over it one more time. So we have a deck of playing cards with Night Flight. So we've got Clarity Box, iCurveball, we've got the Kozar Prediction Pad, we've got Billets, of which we're using Acidus Novus, we've got Crystal Cleaver, just for the fun of it, we've got Timeless, because it's spectacular, we've got Blockhead with your new routine that we've somehow managed to make on this podcast.
Thanks, Jamie.
Your banishment is hold out your hand. No, the clean one. Oh, that was the clean one. Your book is not yet read, but we know you're going to love it. Notes from a Fellow Traveller. And your item is your very palmable Blue Peter badge. What a great list, Joe.
Oh, thanks, man. I got to tell you, I get the chance to do a lot of sort of podcasts and stuff with this job with BBC. And, obviously the last one I did was with Richard Young, which was a complete joy, but this is some of the most fun I've had on a podcast ever. I've loved it, and I've loved talking magic. And I hope maybe people listen to it and they find something they haven't used before or too scared to use. You can hope through the bottom drawer, find something and get it back out again.
Well, it's been a joy having you on here. And I mean, I know everyone's going to go and check out iCurveball because that's very accessible. And I know that David Copperfield's team is listening right now and is already in pursuit of putting the plans together for Jumbo Crystal Cleaver. So I think we've started something. Now, Joel, you mentioned that you've got your show going on. So if people want to come and see your show, if people want to find out more about you, your socials, all of that good stuff, where can they go to?
So the best place to go is Instagram. I've got like TikTok and YouTube and all the rest, but I just use that to post, not as a social platform, and I don't promote anything on there. So if you happen to want to see my show, I'll usually do a run every single year. It might be too late by the time this one comes out because I think the Belfast ones are selling out, which is good. But you can come see me next year and just follow me on Instagram at It's Joel M, which is my name, at It's Joel M. And I love chatting to magicians, so if you've watched the show and you just want to chit chat or ask a question or whatever, please just do DM me. It used to be the case where I had management and stuff logged in there, and that was awful. It's me now. So we're all a little tight knit group here, and I'd love to speak to anybody who wants to talk to me. So do shoot me a message and let me know what you think of my list. Is it terrible? I hope not. So
No,
I look forward to hearing from you.
I can already tell them that they're going to think it's great. But I also want to plug on your behalf your other podcast that you did that we've spoken about a couple of times. Because if you want to find out more sort of about Joel's background and maybe some of his thoughts on magic and how he's got to where he is, all of that good stuff, it's a really, really good listen. I really enjoyed listening to it. And it'll give you kind of this one is quite trick focused, perhaps, and you know, performance focused, whereas that sort of gives a really interesting background to where you've come up and how you are where you are now.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you. And yeah, shout out to that podcast. That was a whole lot of fun as well. Honestly, dude, genuinely, dude, thanks so much for asking me to come on. As I've said to you before, enjoyed listening to the show. So I was dead excited when I got the message. And yeah, it's just been a really fun time. Time has flown by as well. I've been chatting a good little while here. So thank you for sitting, listening to all my anecdotes and making them making it seem like you find them interesting. So I appreciate that. Have a really, really good time.
No, it really is a really interesting list. And of course, we can now look forward to seeing you on Mastermind and seeing just how well or bad you did with your Darren Brown special.
I wouldn't worry so much about the Darren Brown stuff, is all I'll say. It's more the general knowledge. Us magicians aren't always the most well-versed in, you know, general IQ. That's a big generalization that just applies to me. But yeah, watch it. It should be good fun. And hopefully I made Darren proud. But yeah, other than that, I would say the only thing to do is if you're watching this, you've never seen Blue Peter, we're back on as of today. It'll be on in 40 minutes. You'll be too late for that, but we're back on Fridays at 5 o'clock. So if you want to see a magician and support a magician on the telly, that's the only other place you can catch me every Friday.
Amazing. Well, thank you again, Joel. Thank you for taking the time out.
Oh man, thank you so much. And I hope to see you not on a desert island, but soon at a magic convention or something. We'll hang out.
100%. And of course, thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode. Do go check out Blue Peter. Do go buy tickets to Joel's show if it is near you. Hopefully, it will be a much bigger tour going forward, and he'll be down by all of us, and we can go and support him. Do also go check out some of those tricks on there. Of course, we mentioned iCurveball. It is on Penguin. Do go check it out. Steve Della, of course, he is a former desert island maybe escapee at this point. I don't know.
He got away.
he did get away. Great. We've never thought about that. Are all of the magicians that we have all on the same island? Are you just gathering as the years go on?
I'm collecting them, yeah. And I'm just going to sit them down and force them to come up with a better show for me than I could come up with myself, like you've done on this podcast. So thank you.
Amazing. Well, thank you all again. We'll be back again next week with another episode. But until then, have a great week, guys.
Do you want to become a magician? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Alakazam Unlimited. Alakazam Unlimited is literally the Netflix for magicians. You learn loads of tricks on there and they are so good. Let me show you exactly what you learn. On Alakazam Unlimited, you learn tricks for beginners. Check this out. Tricks that if you've never done a magic trick before, it's not a problem because they are so easy to perform. We teach you card tricks on there, but not card tricks that you would have seen your granddad or your uncle perform. I'm talking professional level card tricks. We're going to teach you coin tricks. So if you're down the pub and your mate hands you some change, you can do tricks with their coins. Not only that, we also teach you how to read minds. Mind reading has blown people away forever, and you can harness that power. Build confidence. Magic is great for building confidence, whether you're 5 or 105. Magic is the perfect confidence builder. It gets you out around people having fun. It could even be a new career. You never know that. It's a great side hustle as well. If you perform at events, weddings, corporate events, or just at your local restaurant, you can get extra money for performing magic. You can even impress your grandkids. So many people come into the shop and they want to be that magic granddad. They want to have that extra something, a little bit of time they can spend with their grandkids or their children. Magic is the perfect hobby for that, and we teach you tricks that are great for that. Also, win free drinks. Honestly, I've lost count the amount of free drinks I've won just from being able to do a couple of tricks. Not only that, the great thing of Unlimited is get off, you can cancel anytime. There you go. You haven't got to sign up for like a year, anything like that. You can cancel anytime. It's a monthly contract. Not only that, 7-day free trial, and the price of it, drum roll please, £4.99 per month. Less than £5 a month, you get access to over 200 magic tricks taught by professional magicians, okay? unreal magic tricks of all skill levels, of all abilities. You can cancel any times. It's $4.99 a month, and like I said, there's tricks on there for every single one of you. So if you want to become a magician, if you want to learn one trick, if you want to just impress your friends, your colleagues, your pub mates, check out Alakazam Unlimited right now, alakazam.co.uk, or click the link below. You will not regret it, trust me. It'll be the best £5 a month you ever spent. It's literally less than a pint. Unbelievable.